Right, welcome back if you've just joined us. We're in Cape Town today and we're talking about state-owned companies, and we have the representative shareholder in charge of these 6 entities that we're looking at today, the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Lynne Brown, and we've started going around having a chat about getting an overview from the various CEOs that are with us here today, and we're now going to chat to the Acting CEO of Transnet, Siyabonga Ngama. Thank you so much again for joining us. You just started to tell us, give us in broad strokes an overview of Transnet, where we sit, because as I said, you know, you're perhaps working with the public and people all the time, and so we read about derailments and all sorts of things like that. But give us a strategic view of the entity, where we are and where we're going.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. Transnet grew its revenue to 61.2 billion in the past financial year. Also powered ahead in terms of its profitability to just over 26 billion rand. I believe that as the transport and infrastructure service provider for our country, we're well placed in terms of creating the necessary impetus to catalyze economic growth. We've seen very good growth in our rail, ports, and pipeline businesses. We exceeded 226 million tons in terms of what we handled in our railways last year, close to 300 million tons in our ports, and more than 17.5 billion kiloliters in our pipeline. So you would see that we have now commissioned our new multi-product pipeline. We continue to create efficiencies in the marketplace, and I think the companies that are using Transnet are very excited about the optimization of efficiencies that they are able to gather from what we have been doing, because it makes them to position themselves in a far better place than they were a year before or 2 years before. So the market demand strategy of Transnet, which is a 337 billion rand infrastructure investment program, is there to really strengthen the logistics backbone of our country, our supply chains across a number of segments of commodities that we are handling, ranging from coal to iron ore, are strengthening. Just in the last year, we exported a record of 76.2 million tons on the coal line. We did more than 59 million tons on the iron ore. So you can see that the investments that Transnet has been making over the past 3 years are beginning to bear fruit. But also, because we're not just about making profits, we're making telling impact in the different communities in which Transnet operates in. Our Pello Paper train, for instance, reached more than 325,000 people in the last year. In deep rural areas, people who would otherwise not have any access to health care. So there's a lot of things, I think, that we believe as Transnet are going right, and we are going to continue to catalyze economic growth in our country by making sure that we optimize our ports, our rail, and our pipeline system in order for us to make sure that this country's GDP continues to grow.
All right. Well, I know one person who is listening very intently to what you're saying is Brian Maloof, and I'm just wondering, they're getting on with it and they seem to be succeeding. Does that mean that you might have a permanent redeployment? That's a question we'll ask a little bit later on. All right, let's move to the CEO of SAFCOL, the South African Forestry Company. And this is a company that we don't hear too much about. I know that about a year ago you were talking about growing exports to relieve some of this financial pressures, revenue pressures, because of costs at home. Has that happened? Have the exports started to come in? I think you were talking about China this time a year ago. Where are we with SAFCOL?
Well, if I can start at the top, Safcol is the 100% owned, state-owned company in forestry. We are responsible in South Africa for 187,000 hectares of planted plantations. Primarily, we operate in 3 provinces, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo. We used to be nationwide, but they at some stage. So we also have an operation in Mozambique, which we co-own together with the government of Mozambique. What's important about Safcol is that Safcol does not receive any financing from the government. We operate on our own balance sheet and we make our own money. So we are a self-sustaining company. We never have received funding from government. And we're quite excited in the past 5 years, this is the first year that we have achieved almost all the financial KPIs that the shareholder has asked us to achieve. And as a result of which is we continue to grow our asset base, which is what is important to the shareholder, but at the same time, looking after our two mandates, because we also have a dual mandate. The mandate to make your own money, but at the same time, looking after rural development. So Safcol in the rural areas creates thousands and thousands of jobs. And we, in this financial year, operated under very difficult conditions where we were also looking at exports because the market has come down, but also our cost structure is quite high. And we took a decision primarily not to retrench anybody, because if you retrench people in the rural areas, who else is going to create those jobs? And I suppose that's so part of the beauty of Safcol being owned by the state, because we can do such things because our shareholder will understand such imperatives. So in terms of growing our own biological asset, because we grow our trees over 30 years, some people don't understand that. When you plant a tree today, you will only harvest it in the year 25 to 30. And we trained people. We also have a very exciting program for community development in rural areas. And this is something that we are beginning to share with some of the other SOCs when it comes to how we deal with communities in the rural areas.
All right, so another good story to tell, but there are challenges, land claims, things like that. We'll explore that as well when we come around to unpacking that. So the CEO of Alexkor, diamonds. You can't go wrong with selling diamonds, but you've actually managed to significantly increase revenues. So what is it that you're doing right, and does that bode well for the future?
Thanks, Peter. Just to give sort of a background, I mean, for a company that over the last 60 years has been used as a conduit for arms procurement and has been involved in a horrible land grab and has been on the newspapers for all the wrong reasons, I'm actually happy to say that when we came in as an executive and management, we set ourselves 3 targets in terms of turning it around. Obviously, the big issue was that you sat with a labor force that for years, they were not expected to make any profit. You know, if the ministers at the time during the old government say, I want so much carrots to buy so much arms in France, what do you need? You know, and there's a saying in Afrikaans that says, wat wil hy? You know, and the guys will say, we need 20 vehicles. And the minister will say, somewhere have 5 more. You know, and that was the culture, you know, at Alexkor at the time. So what we did then when we came through is we unwinded that through a change management process and obviously bring in new members, you know, from the community to work within the operations. But the key issue that we focused on was focusing on exploration. Because you can imagine for more than 20 years where we never had where we had a land claim, you couldn't actually do an exploration on land, even at sea, because there was no one pumping money into Alexkor. You couldn't do exploration. So the biggest thing we did was to focus and invest on a proper exploration plant and actually look at the whole land package, which is about 140 kilometers, you know, across the coastline of the West Coast. And we're seeing very good results in that particular regard. And we've done a lot of work at sea. We've got 3 main concessions at sea where we've got deep sea areas that go up to 30 kilometers off the coast and to a depth of about 300 meters, where I'm happy to announce that we've done significant exploration there which will see in less than 3 years the quadrupling of production in Alexkor. And again, the other key issue really on the land, we've identified 3 major mining nodes, which have now started to contribute into the production. And we're still halfway with that, but I'm very much convinced with what we're seeing and what we're seeing on the demand of diamonds, especially our type of diamonds, because we sit on the top 25 percentile quartile of the most sorted diamonds in the world, that the future is bright. Thank you.
Okay, so good story again there. And I wonder, Minister, we'll chat a little bit about this. Could this be the model for government getting into mining even further? We'll explore that. Right, so now, for years and years and years, you had the excuse of fuel prices increasing and saying, this is why we're struggling. Fuel prices has been going down, Inati, and you should be making tons of cash. What's happening?
No, thank you, Peter, very much, actually, for inviting us. I think the fuel price coming down is a very good thing. It's very positive for us. Of course, the rand depreciation is not really good for us because we buy the bulk of our spares in dollars. So it's basically one is making up for the other. But I mean, Minister covered a little bit about the good news on the business, but I'd also really like to just talk about some of the programs that we do. There's nothing better than really watching the youngsters that we've groomed over the last few years. You know, I was flying from Joburg to Bloemfontein yesterday, and it's really great when you go to the cockpit to greet the pilots to see these youngsters that are in there. You know, that we've trained some of them straight from high school, now being able to really fly the aeroplane. And then, of course, the excitement is when they realize that you are on board, and they get a little bit nervous and they want to hand over the reins back to the captain. But so we are very much involved in really transforming the airline. And when we talk transformation, we're not talking about just the color. We're talking transforming the people, transforming the real management, understanding of the industry. Aviation is not a a simple industry. And of course, for a long time, some of us we've been in areas where we couldn't even see an aeroplane. And the good thing we've done is that we've managed now to fly to all 9 provinces, the last one being the Northwest. So we're covering the entire South Africa. More people can start associating with aviation, which is something that was not there before. So yeah, look, it's going well. We have, if I look at just transforming now on the numbers of the pilots that we have, which is about 200 pilots. We are sitting at about 20%, 19.9% of our pilots are black, and that's compared to the industry that's sitting at about 2%. And that's, our charter says we should hit 2%. And of course, we do have airlines that would only stay at that minimum. But we've managed to look at this thing, not just to tick boxes and, and probably get a better BBBE score. But we do this because we're passionate about it, and we believe that it will make South Africa a better place.
Are you unearthing young pilots from disadvantaged areas?
We actually are looking, for a long time, we've now even changed the model slightly. We're looking at pilots that are coming outside of the big cities. We've always focused on Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban, but now we're looking even in villages. The idea is to get to a point where every time we take an intake, we probably have a pilot, a young cadet coming from basically rural South Africa. It's great to do it. We've even started doing expos now, career expos, where we go into the communities. We were in Paarl the other day, where we really, they looked at us like flying was something that is foreign for them. And we were able to award the top student in the school to come and fly with a teacher, and you could see the excitement of the young people now being able to fly, and that's what we would like to see. We want to make flying affordable, and we have to do that. We have to fix our cost structure internally and make sure that we continuously remain sustainable, become sustainable, but also be able to create programs where all South Africans would have experienced flying in their lifetime.
All right, so Kate, fantastic story. But we'll explore other issues like support, balance sheet, all of those things. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll get your questions at home at Morning Live SABC, and also we have an audience here that are going to be posing questions to our panel as well. Stay with us as we look at state-owned enterprises.